And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Roll for Adventure. This is a cooperative game where you are rolling to go on adventures. It's a game in which you're trying to fight against some evil master with a bunch of fantasy characters, kind of not Yahtzee style, but you're going to roll and try to get various numbers and determine where to best put those numbers to defeat a bunch of enemies who are attacking your kingdom and eventually get these power stones so that you can then make a gauntlet or something to punch the bad guy with. I'm not even sure exactly what you're doing to win theme-wise, but you're rolling dice. I know that part. Well, I know a lot more than that. I know how the game plays. Let me show you. To win the game, players are going to need a certain number of power stones. How many you need depends on how hard you want the game to be. You play with the Jewel of Light, you're going to need 8. You play with the Book of Magic, you need 5. The color of them doesn't really matter. Each player is going to take one of these characters that's going to give you a special ability over the course of the game. And players are also going to take 5 dice of their color. An enemy deck is going to be shuffled and ready to go. And then you have 4 boards here. They each have 2 sides, so you can have different tasks that you're trying to do. But on a player's turn, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to roll these dice. They're going to look at the numbers that they've rolled and choose one of those numbers. So for example, I might choose the 2 3s. You could do various things with these numbers, but you can place them on the board and then you'll roll dice again. Now I got 2 4s, and then I roll again. I got a 1. I can put that there, and then it's the next person's turn. You want to have some dice at the beginning of your turn. If you can't roll dice at the beginning of your turn, you lose. But once a spot gets completely full, then all the dice will return to the different people who rolled them. Enemies are going to be attacking as the time goes by, and sometimes they'll attack dice, and those dice will get sent here to the vortex in the middle. So on a player's turn, they can place their dice on the vortex of resurrection here, and as dice are placed on this spot here, which by the way, once you put them there, you can't do anything else in your turn. If this gets to be 10 or higher, then these dice get returned and all the dice here get returned to their owner. So what are players trying to do? You're trying to get stones. So there's different ways to get them. Down here, you simply need to get 4 3s, 4 2s, or 4 4s. When you do this, let's say we get 4 3s, then these dice come back, and this gate is broken. When all 3 gates are broken, the players will get a power stone. Then on this spot here, players are placing 5s or 6s. When this is completely filled with 5s or 6s, then they get a power stone, and this wall gets pushed back, which means you need to get more 5s and 6s to get another power stone. So each time it gets pushed back farther, you need more and more. On the flip side, on the desert, here you simply need to put 1s. When you get 3 1s, one of these 1s is placed here. So you do it again, you'll get 3 more 1s, and then another one's placed here. When you get 3 here, then one of these 1s is basically permanently removed from the game, but you get a power stone. Those are the 3 ways to get power stones. This last spot here in the ice, you just need to place a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can place them in any order you want. And when you have a group of 4 together, then each player who's put a die there will get a bonus die that can be used once. If you put 5 together, you do that and you can kill an enemy. And if you put 6 together, you do that, kill an enemy, and you can move one of these skulls back 1. Skulls are there because at the end of a player's turn, they're going to draw an enemy card. These enemies are going to be placed on their side of the board. So this white wolf here is placed on this side of the board. As these enemies come out, they can be defeated. To defeat an enemy, you simply need to put a 6 or a total of 6 on an enemy, and that enemy will be defeated. But anytime an enemy comes on the table whose number is higher than other enemies, all those enemies will attack. And each enemy will do various things when they attack. So for example, this white wolf here, if there's a 6 die here, they will remove it. If there are no dice here, and by the way, when these dice are removed, they're sent to the vortex in the middle. If there are no dice, each time they attack, the skull moves down 1. If the skull gets all the way down to the end, then players lose the game. So players can't allow too many of these bad guys to show up. The bad guys are going to steal dice on each side. So the Crypt Spirit on the one side will steal a 2, 3, and 4 if there are them. The Sand Devil will steal a 1. The White Wolf steals the highest die that's there. and the wood demon will steal a 5 and a 6 from their type. And of course, there's different categories, like the cave troll does the same thing as a white wolf. It just is a higher number. Again, when you play a high number, every enemy on the board that is a lower number than that will attack, and the highest the numbers get to is 3. Now, somewhere in the deck is the evil Master of Shadows. When the evil Master of Shadows shows up, every enemy on the board attacks. Then you'll roll a die here, and if it shows a single territory, that territory takes 2 damage. If it shows this, all territories take 1 damage. And then we shuffle the Master of Shadows back in enemy deck, where he'll come out again. And so players are going to have to get these jewels before they eventually succumb to the attacks, because if a player doesn't have dice at the beginning of their turn, they lose. If this gets all the way to the bottom, they lose. But if they get a certain number of power gems, they will win the game. As I said earlier, there are 2 sides for each of these boards, so each side does something different. Like this one has chains that you are going to be connecting the chains by forming groups of 1 on the board, and when the chains are connected, then you'll get a power stone. And so there's going to be different sides to each of the 4 boards, and players will have special abilities. So for example, the healer can reduce damage in a territory. Fighters can kill enemies with 4 and less, or 4 or more, rather than a 6 or more. The protector can free a die of someone else from the vortex of oblivion in the middle. The adventurer gets an extra re-roll, so once they roll, they can re-roll them if they don't like the numbers. And here the summoner die, if you get the bonus die, you can turn it to any number. So each of these has a special ability that can be used at various points over the course of the game. You can also add in special enemies. If you think the game is too easy, you can pick a pack of special enemies like dragons or phantoms or giants, or I guess you could play with multiples of them. These are big, nasty creatures that will come in the game and do different things to you. Again, if you thought the base game was too easy. I'm glad the board is modular. It's nice to have a modular board here, but I will say the whole game feels a little smaller than it should be. This game comes in a big Ticket to Ride size box, which is a little bigger than the board, but the board could have been bigger. Everything could have been just a little bit bigger, I think. The dice are fine quality, but the tokens are a little small. The artwork is a bit generic. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like that there's all these different characters, but oh my goodness, they just look like trope characters from your typical fantasy. I mean, there's at least a variety of how the characters look, but that healer, yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like this universe is really that different. The monsters are a little better. I like the artwork on the monsters, and the symbology is pretty clear. I just thought that the whole thing just felt a little bit tinier than it should be. So yeah, this game is very, I said it's a little smaller than it should be. It's also very generic. It's super generic fantasy. And I wish it wasn't. I wish there was a little bit more. The name's generic, the artwork's generic, and I think that's going to put some people off. But the game itself is really fun. It is not an extremely complicated cooperative game. I think we need more of these light, medium weight cooperative games. And I like that this one has so many different options. There are 2 sides of 4 different boards that you can, mix and match. I mean, it's not that many combinations. But then when you pick the combinations of characters that you have, plus the combinations of extra bad guys you can throw in, this is a nice introductory cooperative game that kids can play, adults can play, families can play. And yes, there's luck in the game for sure as you roll the dice. And at first the decisions seemed pretty obvious. I rolled 2 1s. I guess I'll go to the 1 board. But you have to make decisions as more and more enemies show up. Am I going to start fighting the enemies back? Look how many dice are locked in the middle. Maybe we should spend some dice in the vortex of healing and get these back. How do I best utilize my special character ability? And what characters should we take? Because some characters are easier to use than others. When do we go for those bonus dice? Should we even bother trying to do that? So there's good decisions to be made here, and I found this to be very entertaining. I really like this, and it's also not that long. It says 30 minutes. You could probably play a 45-minute game of this, especially if you think and talk about the different decisions. But overall, I think this is a very enjoyable game. If you like the game Castle Panic as a great introductory cooperative game, this feels like a slight step up from that. before you get to more complex ones. And for that, and if you just like rolling dice and deciding where to place dice in the game, this is good. And it's also very strongly cooperative. You're constantly talking to each other. How can I help you? You know, I need to heal you, then you can do this, I'll help you, you help me, and so on and so forth. And that kind of cooperation is the very point of cooperative games. I like it. Roll for adventure. Dice Tower Judgment approved!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.